Welcome, and in this short video I'm going to be showing you, or working through, I'll probably be making mistakes as I go along, but be showing you how to protect your upstream services, your microservices, with Tyk Gateway, using OpenID Connect as the authentication mechanism and Auth0 as the identity provider. So let's start by creating an API within Tyk. Click Add New API. API is active, and we can call it httpbin because we're going to be protecting the httpbin service and then reverse proxying to httpbin.org, as we can see from here. So for the time being, I'm going to set this to open and save that just so that you can see exactly what we're doing. And if I edit now, and I can copy that URL, and I can send a curl to that /get, and then we can see we've got a response from the get endpoint. Now, what we're going to do is modify the authentication mode and to use OpenID Connect. And at this stage, we need to be able to add issue client policies, but we won't be able to do this yet because we need to find out who the details of the issuer, etc. So I'll just leave that as is for the time being. We can now head over to Auth0, and the idea is to create an application. Let's call it a regular application, which we call httpbin. Create. And now that's generating the application. I think we can ignore the quick start, have a look at settings. We can see here we have a domain, we have a client ID, we've got a client secret which is hidden. I could reveal it if I wanted to. Application logo, regular web application post, and allowed callback URLs. I'm going to be making some mistakes, as I mentioned before, in this, and hopefully we can fix them as we go along. So just clicking on the OAuth tab, making sure that the signature algorithm is set to RS256, and everything looks fine at the moment. I will need to authorize an allowed callback URL, but I don't actually know what that's going to be yet. So if I now copy this domain, head over to the gateway, and then I can add this domain as the issuer. And what this requires is a client ID and a policy. Now, I don't actually have a policy yet, so I will need to go back to policies, don't save, add policy, and we call this the default policy or the default plan, where we have a rate limit of 100 requests a minute and a usage quota. Let's suppose we have 1,000 requests per 24 hours. And what we need to do is grant access to the httpbin API, and we need to modify the trial period to say that the key doesn't expire, because this would potentially conflict with the expiry of the JWT, which is generated by Auth0. So now I've created that policy, and we've got policy ID. We can go back to APIs, open up httpbin. Scroll back to the bottom. I need the issuer again. So your issuer will be different. This is my particular domain, ASORM. You'll have to create your own account, and it will create everything for you. So press add, client ID and policy. So client ID, copy that, enter that in there, and then policy, and then add. So now we can update this API, and if I send the same curl request there again, we should say key not authorized. Perfect. So from here, we need to move into the, let's have a look. So if we open up the OpenID Connect playground, what we can do is modify the configuration here, and this will handle our auth flows. So if I modify this, our server template is for Auth0, And what we can do here is add our Auth0 domain, which is this domain here. And it's also provided here. If I paste that in there and use the Auth0 discovery document, it will then enter in the authorization token endpoint for me, the token endpoint, the token keys endpoint, etc. And it will give me a client ID and client secret. I need to add my own client IDs and secrets into here. So moving back to this application, I can copy that, paste that there, and then the secret, I can copy that and paste that there. Obviously, I'm going to be deleting this application, so you won't be able to use that secret by the time I've uploaded this video. So save. And now what it's done is generated a request for me. So if I hit start, and the problem is that the URL OpenID Connect callback is not in the list of allowed callback URLs. So if I copy that URL and go back here and add this as an allowed callback URL, and then I should be able to save those changes. Head back here, press the back button, and it seems to have died on me. Let's refresh that, see if it loads up. Okay, luckily everything's still there and it hasn't deleted anything. Let's press start again. And now we're redirected to our app httpbin. The only issue that I have now is the fact that I haven't actually created any users with Auth0. So I might be able to log in with Google, but because I haven't attached it to this application, that's not really possible. So I go into users and I need to create a user, and we will say username, password, authentication for the connection, and I'm going to say password, repeat the password, and save. Oh, just wanted a test password, so okay. So now that I have created this user, the problem is that there aren't any applications which this user is authorized against. So let's see if I can somehow authorize the user for this application. Can I? How do I do this? Connections. Right, so we'll look at that username password authentication database for users. So maybe it is maybe it will allow me. Let's see if we can test it anyway. So let's see if it lets me in. Oh, excellent, it let me in. So what's it done now? It's redirected to the OpenID Connect server using this information. It's allowed me to log in, and we've now got a exchange code for the token. So what we need to do is essentially send a request to get the token, or exchange my code for the token. So if I hit exchange, and what I'll get here is a JSON response, and what we need to look for here is the ID token. So if I copy this ID token, and that's basically a JOT, copy that, I should be able to gain access to my httpbin API. We can try that here, so it won't let me in. And if I set the header authorization bearer and paste in the JWT, and it still doesn't let me in. Why is that? No. Key not authorized. Let's have a look at our gateway logs. It says attempted access with invalid key. Validation error. No provider was registered with the issuer. https Auth0 Auth0.com. So we go back to the gateway. We've got our Auth0 Auth0.com. Maybe that no provider was registered with the issuer. Is this my client ID? Let's check that. That's my client ID is MGBAQ. MGBAQ, that's fine. No provider registered with the issuer. So Auth0 Auth0.com. The reason that this didn't work is I need the full domain, the full address rather than just the domain of the issuer. So this is actually wrong. We need to add another issuer here. Add. And what I'm going to do is just copy that client ID and the policy, add the default policy, add, and I should be able to delete this one and then update again. Okay, and now when I send that same request, if I clear that screen, curl it again, and I should have the output. Okay, and that's all we have to do. Or just to clean this up a little bit, what I can do is click strip authorization data, update that, and then what I might do is pipe that to Python space mjson.tool. Okay, and here we're allowed in, all done.